The 15-Point Plan is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network.
Welcome back to the 15-Point Plan podcast. My name is Ryan Park Greigg, and as always, I'm here with the incredible and amazing Jacqueline Smith. 15-Point Plan, Jacqueline, it's just our system, right? It's a way of life that we know when we follow, we've got, well, a little bit more energy, a little bit less stress, and we're just a little bit more fun to be around, aren't we? Like, we're more fun to be around, and our life is a little bit better. And over the last couple episodes and going into the next couple episodes, we've really been focused on this idea of energy, right, Jacqueline? And our energy being our currency. And we've got some really cool studies that we're reviewing from our metrics mastermind group that we've been taking a look at and really diving deeply into, and what energy looks like and how we manage it and how we can continue to have more of it, right? And last week we did that energy audit. We scored ourselves, right?
Yeah, we scored ourselves in various areas, and we came up with a total score so that you could have an idea of where you should be and where you are. And we're going to dive into some different topics over the coming episodes and give you some tactical ways to improve that score. And, we did talk about a lot of studies, right, over the last episode or two. And we shared that it was a Harvard Medical School research study that shows that people who manage their energy, not just their time, are 4 times more productive, have 3 times better decision quality, and sustain peak performance for decades longer. So this is an important topic. I think it doesn't matter how much time you have if you have no energy. I heard this on something I was listening to yesterday on my plane ride home. It said, it doesn't matter the octane in your fuel tank if you don't have enough gas to get to where you're going.
So true. Yeah, it's so true. That also reminds me of another quote I've heard a couple times lately. I might not get it exactly, but I think it's something along the lines of, a healthy person has 1,000 wishes, but an unhealthy person only has 1 wish.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So true. Okay, so we're going to go through 4 dimensions of energy. And some of these, this is going to sound familiar for some of our listeners because we've done episodes in the past. If you've been a longtime listener of ours and of Ben Kinney's, you've heard him talk about his energy triangle. And the base of that triangle, the foundation of everything, and the reason why the unhealthy person has only 1 wish is because our physical health, our physical energy is the foundation for everything in our life. So if we don't have that, we don't have anything. So the physical foundation is split up into 4 pillars. The first pillar is sleep, and we're going to talk about that today. But once we go through the physical foundation, we're going to talk about the emotional amplifier, our emotional energy, and then our mental, which is your focus engine, and then our spiritual, our purpose, our why, the sustaining fuel that pulls us through hard times. So let's jump into the physical foundation. Pillar number 1, sleep, which is the single most powerful performance intervention known to science. I believe that only because I know that when I haven't had good sleep, I am doing a lot of other things that are not good. Like when I don't sleep well, I tend to not eat well. I just crave more sugar and comfort food. I'm also, like you were saying, not as fun to be around. And so sleeping is really, really important. And I'm going to share again some stats. So this was mind-blowing to me that 17 hours awake equals a legal drink and drive limit performance. So if you've been awake for 17 hours, you are essentially drinking, like the same as drinking and driving. A 24 hours awake is a 0.1 blood alcohol equivalent, and 6 nights of 6 hours of sleep, which adds up to 24 hours, over 24 hours of sleep deprivation, and that just wreaks havoc on your cognitive performance. So after just 17 hours, your cognitive performance drops to the equivalent blood alcohol level of 0.05, and after 24 hours awake, the equivalent of drunk driving. Wow.
Jacqueline, that's crazy because 17 hours awake means we actually got, if I'm doing my math correctly, 7 hours of sleep.
3 plus 4. Yes, that would be correct. Yeah.
Which is wild because we think that's pretty dang good. Like 7 hours of sleep is actually pretty dang good. But what I'm seeing is that that's right on the edge of
Yeah, it
losing
is. Yep.
cognitive power. And
Mm-hmm.
then when you multiply that over multiple days or over maybe a week with 6 nights of sleep at 6 hours or less, now you've got this 24-hour deprivation. And that's like equivalent to drinking a little bit. Like the impacts of sleep we're finding are equally, if not worse, than when we're having an alcoholic beverage, which is wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, super crazy. So why is it so important? What happens when you sleep? 50% of the night you should be in what they call light sleep. So there's phases of sleep, right? There's 50% light sleep, 25% deep sleep, and then we've all heard of REM sleep, which is like your dream sleep. That should be 25% of your night. So during your light sleep, that is the 50% of the night, your memory consolidation begins. You have motor learning and emotional processing, and then the brain is like filing daily experiences. So the visual that I get from this one, Ryan, is that, like, let's say you had like a super productive day at work, and you're just like, your desk shows it, like you just have like papers everywhere, you got a lot done, there's stuff all over the place, though it's a mess, right? At night, your brain, it's like the cleaner came in and like filed away all your papers, dusted off the desk for you, cleaned it up, so it's all like reset for the next day. That's kind of the visual that I got for that one. 25% of the night should be in deep sleep. So that's when you have your human growth hormone release, physical repair happens. This is where your immunity is strengthened, and your lymphatic system flushes brain toxins, which include Alzheimer proteins. So what this tells me is if I'm not getting enough deep sleep, I'm putting myself at a higher risk for Alzheimer's.
Yeah, we absolutely are. And then when we're not getting enough of that sleep in general, we're just waking up kind of with that empty tank. And it makes perfect sense because we've stayed up later than we should. And now we've got that brain fog in the morning.
Yeah.
And now our memory's starting to not get as solid. And our motor learning skills are starting to go. And it's just this massive ripple effect, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, your immune system is reduced. Like if you're not getting enough deep sleep, you're not strengthening your immune system. So again, if we're looking at this in terms of pillars, you could be taking all the vitamins you want, but if your immune system is strengthened when you're sleeping, it doesn't really matter, right? Like you've got to get enough sleep. And then the dream sleep, that's the REM sleep. That's where you get creative insights, you have emotional memory storage, you're problem solving, and you make new neural connections, and you build emotional resilience for the next day. So if you don't have enough sleep, REM sleep specifically, and then you're finding yourself, oh, I feel extra emotional, like someone said something to me and I wanted to cry, or I did cry, I didn't build any emotional resilience because I missed out on sleep. So here's an evidence-based sleep protocol we're going to share.
Jacqueline,
So,
real quick, but before we
oh
do
yeah.
that, some of our
Mhm.
listeners might be wondering, how do I know that I got 50% light sleep, 25% deep sleep, or 25% REM sleep? How do we know that? And what I know about you is you've recently started wearing what's called an Aura ring, right? Which helps you track all these
Yeah.
things, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's so interesting because, before I got this ring, everyone told me that it was just life-changing for them. And I've had it for a couple of weeks now, so it hasn't been that long.
Yeah,
But I think you've said this before too, like, because you've had like the Whoop band and whatnot. But
yeah.
when I wake up, like, I already know, and so I look in the Aura app and I get to see, I guess, like more specifics of like if I feel bad, like I don't feel rested. I know that I didn't get a good night's sleep. I don't need the app to tell me that. But what the app does is it tells me why.
Mm,
So it could be like my heart rate was remained higher than usual more of the night. And that could have been because I exercised late or I had a heavy meal. I don't drink alcohol, but that is also one of the things that can cause an elevated heart rate during your sleep. And so it does tell you why, or maybe I had sleep latency. So like I'm pretty good at falling asleep, but there was one night and specifically I could not get to sleep, and that was reflected on my app in the morning. And so it is cool to show why it's happening, but if you're being present with yourself and like being aware, you do know like if you got a good night's sleep or not. So you don't need to get an Aura ring unless maybe you are really struggling with this in your life. Then it could help you identify like some causes or patterns in your life that you could fix. I guess that's my assessment so far of
yeah.
having it only a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Makes sense. And I think back on our friend Brendan Burchard's 3-2-1 of sleep,
Mhm.
right? Like, don't eat 3 hours before, don't work 2 hours before, and
Yeah.
don't be on screens 1 hour before.
Yep.
So if you're curious about your sleep and you're thinking, should I go get an Aura ring or should I spend money on a Whoop band or buy something? Before you spend any money, just run yourself through that questionnaire. Am
Yeah.
I eating right before bed? Am I in bed eating on a screen, working, and then trying to go to sleep and my sleep is terrible?
Mhm.
Okay, well, I don't think you need to spend any money on an Aura ring or a Whoop band to realize, hey,
Right.
I can make these changes for free and
Yeah.
probably sleep better, see how that goes for a few weeks. Then go spend some money and track it further.
Yep. So we're going to actually share a sleep protocol. So that was Brendan Burchard's simple, easy one to remember. But I'm going to go through what to do in the morning and then what to do in the evening to for your sleep protocol to improve your sleep. So the first thing that's super important is that you have consistency when you're waking up every day. And you can think about this like when you've gone on vacation, if you're listening, like you've gone on a vacation or taken some time off, or maybe even gotten sick and like you were just like sleeping all the time. When you then have to get up on Monday morning and go to the office or whatever, it's harder to get up that morning sometimes, right? Like when you've been out of your routine. So waking up at the same time every day, it anchors your circadian clock.
Yeah.
And even one weekend of sleeping in, like I was saying, one vacation, a few days, it can cost you several days of recovery. And then outdoor sunlight exposure within 10 to 30 minutes of waking. This, again, it sets your circadian clock, your circadian rhythm, and it also boosts cortisol appropriately for your daytime energy. So now, depending on when you wake up, we are in the Pacific Northwest, Ryan and I. We have some friends that live in Arizona. This is much easier for them to do,
Yeah.
but in our climate, sometimes it's not as easy when you're getting up at 5 or 6 a.m. in the winter. It's dark until like pretty
Yeah.
much I'm going to the office. So I know you have a light that you use. I did purchase a light, did not use it very, very consistently, but it's something that I learned more recently about this outdoor sunlight and how important it is to get sun on your face between 10 and 30 minutes of waking.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's super hard when you just don't have sun for a couple
Yeah.
hours after you wake up. So, yeah, there are some lights out there that are probably the next best thing. They're not the exact sunlight, but
Yeah.
I find them to be very helpful.
Yep.
And I also, back to that waking up at the same time, Jacqueline, I love getting up early. And I've always thought, oh, Sunday's my one day to sleep in. And so
Mm.
it's Sunday's typically the day that I don't set an alarm and I wake up whenever I wake up. And typically that's like a couple hours, maybe later than I normally would. And I've
Mhm.
realized when I do that, it's harder for me to go to sleep at the same time Sunday
Yeah.
night, which
Yep.
then, like I said, then makes Monday morning a little bit more challenging because my circadian rhythm is off. So I've tried to just get up, even though I want to sleep in, I try to get up at the same time because it's going to impact me going into the week more than actually that little bit of extra rest that I thought I was getting.
Yep. Okay. And then the last thing for morning protocol is, and some of you are going to hate me for this one. When I first heard it, I was like, what on earth? Okay. It's waiting to drink your caffeine. So just hear me out. There's something that is called, and I'm probably going to say it wrong, but adenosine,
Yeah.
adenosine.
Adenosine. Yeah.
Yeah, and that needs to clear out naturally. And then actually what happens when you allow it time to do that when you wake up is that your caffeine works 40% more effectively when it's properly timed. So they say that you should wait 90 to 120 minutes after waking. So if you are like me and you wake up and you are like, I wish that I could just have an IV of caffeine at the side of my bed. That was me. Like I literally was like a zombie and I'd like stumble over to the coffee maker and get my coffee and then I'd slowly wake up while I was drinking my coffee. Well, now what I've been doing, I'm not at 90 minutes, I'm at 30 minutes. So I am just like extending it bit by bit. And so you don't have to go if you're like me and you're used to drinking it the second you wake up and the thought of waiting an hour and a half is just like excruciating to you. Just start working towards that. Some days, 2 days a week, I go to a fitness class. And so I've been trying not to have my coffee before I go to the fitness class. So I get to have it as like a treat when I get back. So then that ends up being like an hour and a half, which is perfect. So that's the morning protocol. I'm going to go through the evening protocol. So dim all lights to 10% brightness by like 8 p.m. or depending on when you go to sleep.
Hmm.
Melatonin production begins only in darkness. So if you have the lights on all day and you're like running around, you need time for your body to start getting sleepy.
Yeah.
And so this can help if you do this like 90 minutes before you're going to go to sleep. Like, so if you want to go to sleep by 9:30, then by 8 p.m., you should have your lights dimmed. No screens, like Ryan mentioned, 2 hours before bed, because what that does is it suppresses melatonin.
Hmm.
And then keeping your bedroom at between 65 and 68 degrees. My husband and I have a perpetual argument. He's always hot, I'm always cold. So when we heard this, he was like, ha 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 ha, I was right. And then having some sort of like blackout curtains and then silence. Your core body temp must drop 1 to 2 degrees to initiate sleep, and a cool room helps with that. So that's the evening protocol, the morning and the evening. Like Ryan said, you can get a Whoop or an Oura Ring to get really granular on your deep sleep and REM percentages, your HRV, and all the metrics if you want. But before you spend money, like he said,
Yeah.
do these morning protocols and evening protocols for, what would you say, Ryan, like 30, 60 days and see how it impacts you?
I think anything is worth trying for 30 days. Yeah,
Yeah.
anything less than that is just not quite enough time. And speaking of money, if you and your partner are hot and one's cold, they make beds out there that are self-cooling or self-warming. They split it in half, Jacqueline. So
I
you can get a
heard
bed.
about this.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're not cheap. They're not cheap, right? But you can get a bed that will cool one half and warm the other half. So
Yeah.
if your husband or your wife or your partner is running super hot and you're running super cold, they make beds. They basically are split in half. You can cool one half and you can heat the other. Also, another tip in regards to that early morning not drinking caffeine. And I love how, Jacqueline, you created this reward after your workout. if you drink something in the morning, your brain's going to maybe be just as satisfied. Well, not just as satisfied. Let's be real. Coffee is it's a beautiful thing. But like Heather, my girlfriend, she's been drinking bone broth first thing in the morning. So
Okay.
she's still drinking something. She gets a protein boost right away. It's super good for you. It will reduce your cortisol by not having that caffeine. So it's
Mhm.
one of those things of like replacing something so that you're not needing it anymore. But what we're learning is like sleep is just absolutely the most impactful thing in our life. We can do all of these other things, but if we're not getting the right sleep, especially as we get older, it
Yeah.
really becomes counterintuitive to the rest of our life and our energy management. Plus, Jacqueline, you should share this biggest sleep discovery because it's really scary what happens in the long term when we're
Yeah.
really not paying attention to our sleep.
Well, the thing is like I'm guilty of this too. I used to think that sleep was more of like a luxury, like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's great if you get like, wow, I had a great night's sleep. Like, but it's actually so important because chronic, it's fine. Like you're not going to get Alzheimer's if you like have a bad night's sleep once in a while, but we're talking about chronic undersleeping. It's literally like not cleaning out your brain.
Yeah.
So, and they say that poor sleep is linked to 3 times higher Alzheimer's risk. So, I know a lot of us have had people in our family that has been impacted by Alzheimer's. It's so horrible. And if you don't want to put your kids through that and you struggle with sleep, you've got to make this a priority. And I know I'm being like super like harsh on this, but I just think that we owe it to the people that love us to make sure that we prioritize this in our life. If you need to go get a sleep study done, you could have sleep apnea, you could have things medically that are impacting your sleep. Like it is really important that you prioritize it. And then if you don't care about getting Alzheimer's and putting your family through that, and you care about business, they say business decisions made on insufficient sleep carry neurological, not just performance costs. And so, I mean, there's just no denying how important this is. So I know we spent extra time on sleep because it's so important. We hope this was something that if you're listening to this and it's been something that you've been putting off dealing with, we hope that this motivates you to do so and gives you some practical tools and tactics and protocols to get better sleep. We care about you, and I know that you all have people in your life that love you and really want you to be healthy long term. So
And Jacqueline, this whole hustle culture over the years, it's being overridden by the fact that we need to take care of ourselves. And so you don't need our permission to do anything. But what we're seeing is everybody learns that we need a little bit more sleep. Like you don't want to perform on 6 hours of sleep. You don't want to grind and sleep when you're dead. Like that is a thing of the past. And it's something that should be a thought that frankly just should be retired. We have to sleep. We have to recover. The more we do, the more we're going to perform and the better we're going to feel. So that was an episode all about sleep and the benefits and the risks behind not getting it. We're going to jump into our next episode. It's going to talk about exercise, Jacqueline, and what that looks like and how that is the most powerful performance drug known to science. So stick around for that next episode. But in the meantime, you can check all of our past episodes at winmakegive.com. Don't forget, follow Jacqueline and myself online, Jacqueline Ray Smith and Ryan Park Greigg. Until next time, see you then. Bye, everyone.
bye, everyone.